Pauluses and Minuses.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Clair.
Hello there, folks. Welcome back to Lions of Liberty. This is the 163rd episode of this very program, and you can find the show notes for today's show over at lionsofliberty.com/163. And if you enjoy this program, one way that you can help us out during this holiday season is by shopping through our Amazon affiliate link. This costs you nothing extra to do. All you have to do is click on our link, buy whatever you would normally buy, whether it's gifts for your friends or family for the holidays, or whether you're just buying household supplies. Amazon has absolutely everything in the universe on their website. So if you would like to support our site, help us expand our operation, which we are going to be doing very soon, you can do that by shopping at our Amazon link. You can find that at lionsofliberty.com/Amazon. And as you heard at the top there, today's episode is another edition of our regular feature,
Pauluses and Minuses.
Rand, Pauluses, and Minuses. And as always, here with me for that very occasion is Lions of Liberty co-founder, friend, sometimes confidant, but not really, Rand Paul analyst, Mr. Brian McWilliams. How are things?
Well, things are popping. Things are crack-a-lacking.
Well, that's good.
Had a good Thanksgiving up here, full. Obviously, our Johnny Rocket Thanksgiving was a blast.
That was a blast. I'm still a little in recovery from that.
Me too. I'm still. I find curses slipping out of my mouth because
the thing is, I'm still waiting for Heather to make that damn turkey.
Yeah,
I never got a bite of Johnny Rocket turkey.
No, it was all lies.
We forgive you. That was, of course, our Johnny Rocket crossover Thanksgiving special that we did last week. If you missed that, be sure to tick on back in your iTunes feed or head over to lionsofliberty.com/podcast for the almost full archive. You need to wait a minute because I haven't updated it yet, but eventually it'll make its way there too. And so what's been going on with Rand here in the any news here in the Thanksgiving break? I would think it would be a slow time for political news unless you're Obama releasing all your regulations.
Oh yeah. What was it, like 155 regulations?
180 something like that.
Yeah, every year they love to release all the regulations just
on Black Friday or like on the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, it's always like on Christmas Eve they'll do one, on the day before Black Friday they'll do one. It's always anything they want people to ignore and get swept under the rug because everybody's doing puff stories and nobody's watching TV. Right. So anyway, but yeah.
Did he pardon a turkey though? Did he do that?
He did. I think he pardoned a turkey. I don't think he pardoned Turkey's shooting down of the Russian fighter.
Right. Nice tie-in.
Yeah,
I didn't even do that on purpose.
Once in a blue moon.
That's why I bring you in here for this.
Just for that one line, one line of show.
Your work here is done. Goodbye.
Sense. All right, guys. Thanks. I'll
be finishing the show myself.
Speaking of, hold on. You can find all of the archives for Rand Pauluses and Minuses at...
Because this is a weekly column for people that don't know. In addition to a bi-weekly podcast.
That's right. You can go to lionsofliberty.com/Rand.
How convenient.
Yeah. So you mentioned, we had a Thanksgiving break there. So I'm thinking I'll do the pre-Thanksgiving, which was pretty hot and heavy.
Yeah, and I like hot and heavy action.
And then
hot and heavy Randy pants action.
And then the post-Thanksgiving. So it's going to be like before marriage and after marriage. Hot and heavy and then absolutely...
All right, so what took place before Thanksgiving? What was in the Randy Pants news? By the way, for those that are new to this thing, hashtag Randy Pants.
Yeah.
There you go. Tweet that puppy out. Let's get this thing trending.
Make it popular. I need to leave my mark on the world.
And we have gotten a good number of Randy Pants tweets and mentions, by the way.
We've gotten some converts.
Not quite trending in the world yet. I think you actually need millions of mentions for that, but we're working our way up one step at a time. Yeah, exactly. It takes a village.
So pre-Thanksgiving was post-Paris attacks. So that right there, you're gonna have a lot of news that's stemming from the Paris attacks.
A lot of hype, a lot of hyperbole about terrorism, about keeping us safe.
A lot of hand wringing, and of course, it was a horrible thing that happened. No one's debating that. But what has been debated now is whether, in the wake of these attacks, if the NSA's spying should be increased, if we should have additional surveillance going on, if we need to roll back all the protections, or the quasi protections that were put into place when the Patriot Act was repealed.
And what does Rand Paul think about that?
Well,
should we take a listen?
I think we should take a listen so I don't personally have to drop the bombs on people.
We have the technology to do that.
Let's do it.
So let's check out what Rand had to say. This is at a recent speech at George
GW, yeah.
GW Uni.
So when they stand up on television and says, the tragedy in Paris means you have to give up your liberty. We need more phone surveillance. Bullshit.
it. It's bull. Can we say it?
Bullpucky.
Bullpucky. We're going to keep this one non-explicit.
We'll keep it clean. Yeah, we'll keep this a clean.
Although Rand didn't, so I guess, whatever.
That's why the kids love him. But yeah, people went crazy when he dropped the BS bomb on people.
College kids were clapping.
Yeah, and that was like a standing room only event. I mean, it was a well-attended event.
So it was a standing ovation.
Yeah, it essentially was.
Room only.
Precisely. They were standing to applaud BS, and they were standing to applaud anti-surveillance stances. And Rand, he's come out strong. To his credit, he's come out really strong and said, no, we're not going to increase surveillance. I'm not for increasing surveillance. We have plenty of surveillance going on. And of course, all of the facts and all the statistics back him up. All of the commentary says more surveillance hasn't stopped anything. Rand specifically also referenced France. I'm not sure if it was during this specific talk, but in different interviews, has referenced the fact that France has one of the most overarching surveillance states in the world.
They also
didn't stop anything.
They also have some speech issues, some free speech issues in France. And by issues, I mean bad laws against it. There was actually I think a rapper that was recently sent to jail there for speech I don't know if it was. I don't know the exact details because that would require research. But he went to jail essentially for speech related to, I guess, maybe vaguely supporting terrorism. Or
Well,
and look, I don't think people should support Islamists, and I don't know the exact things this guy was saying, but it's speech, and when speech is attacked and privacy is attacked, I mean, we're losing freedoms and gaining zero in actual extra security.
Right, exactly right.
In my view, and that's why Rand said this is bullshit. Yeah, I'm putting the E. I'm putting the E on this episode because.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Speaking this is a slightly tangential issue, but it just happened. Speaking of free speech, this story we were talking about today in our little email chain about the guy outside a Michigan courthouse who was arrested and sent to jail by a judge for contempt of court because he was handing out pamphlets and letting people know about jury nullification.
Well, technically that is interfering with the process because they want the process to be one where nobody knows about jury nullification. Right. So, the judge isn't necessarily wrong.
Well, he's just wrong. He's not in public. He's not on courthouse. He's not in the courthouse giving him out. He's on the sidewalk. And even if he was, it's like, okay, so now anybody that talks about jury nullification anywhere could be culpable to be put in jail.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Yeah, I mean,
what if I do a podcast, which I have done, which I'll link to in the show notes at lionsofliberty.com/164, about jury nullification? Does that mean I am maybe interfering in all the court cases in the world? That sounds ridiculous, but you could extend that kind of logic to that point. If anybody's talking about jury nullification, you're technically interfering with the way that the government would largely like to run the court system.
Exactly. So they can come in and black bag you up. You're going to jail. Anyway.
We have the podcast. We have the evidence.
Idiotic. Yeah.
I would just be happy that they listened, to be honest.
Yeah. Thanks, government. They're always listening. All right. So anyway, that was clearly standing up to the NSA. Paulus?
Paulus, yes. For cursing and for standing up against surveillance.
Double Paulus.
So that's a double.
So that was a great way to kind of come off Paris. Now, this, of course, bleeds into the next issue, which was another good, Rand standing up for the right thing is, in the wake of the Paris attacks, both Rubio and Donald Trump started really laying on the anti-Muslim rhetoric.
Super xenophobia time.
Xenophobia out the ass.
Okay.
So they're, between the two of them, one of them says we need to have badges. I believe Trump was the one who said we need to have, badges, and we need to look at all the
badges for Muslims, right?
Badges for Muslims, yeah. Okay. He's saying, we should
like
go.
Something I've heard about before in other countries. In the past.
Rubio was saying that we need to talk to all their friends and and follow them and make a database and all this other stuff. And
I'm sure they're already doing that, by the way.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, I mean, it's like all these things. Of course they're following people that are suspect, but it goes into what do you qualify then as a suspect? Just because somebody goes to a mosque? Because both of these guys in their what they're spouting when they're saying any place where radical Islam could possibly crop up, which is essentially any place any Muslims go ever.
Internet chat rooms,
a coffee house. You could go
Starbucks.
Mark, you like to smoke sometimes. Target. Let's say you're smoking a hookah. Hookahs? Kind of Muslim there.
I have had a hookah once or twice. That's true.
Did you own a hookah?
No, I don't own a hookah, but I have had flavored. Actually, in Thailand, I had some great flavored tobacco of all places.
Stuff. Yeah, like apple.
It is pretty tasty, but I have driven by some hookah places in LA, and I've seen some people that looked like they could have been Muslim. And according to these guys, that might be enough evidence for me to turn them in and start following them.
Or just to or held them under surveillance. And there was also, I think it was Trump was saying that he wanted to stop people from going and grouping anywhere where Muslim
grouping.
Like this radical Islam could be.
So
could be
Muslim
forged.
orgies are out of the question. I guess
those are my favorites.
Is that a thing that happens?
That's the one. Let me just say, anti-terrorism. But if that's the way they win you over,
we could think about it.
Maybe.
Anywho, so Rand actually came out and said, what did he say against these guys?
He said he said that Rubio should be completely disqualified for his views because he's trying to, it was Rubio that said to shut down. Here's the quote: any place, whether it's a cafe, a diner, an internet site, any place where radicals are being inspired.
Hey, he's right. He didn't mention hookahs, but we pretty much said the same thing we said.
Exactly. So Paul said, I think that's really disqualified Rubio, and you know what? I agree with them because. I mean, at the end of the day, one day, okay, we react like we talked this before. Every time there's any sort of big event, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's a bombing, the immediate reaction is so strong because it's so strong in people's minds. And what people have to remember is that, okay, let's say you have badges for Muslims, or you ban people from associating because of this or that.
How do you even enforce this? This is other than straight up banning a certain religion. And look, I've been a critic of religion in the past, and I think there are many ways to criticize how certain religions and certain statements in religions could be twisted to turn people into violent people. And that's totally possible. But when you start attacking simply ideas, simply the speech, I mean, that is something that will be turned upon you at some point if you advocate that. Because we need to live in a free society, you need to allow free political speech, even political and religious speech that we strongly disagree with, because we would like to come out and strongly disagree with certain speech. And to have our own freedom to do that, you need freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom to openly practice and say whatever it is you want, other than saying, hey, come here and shoot this guy, I have a gun. I mean, something like that is a threat. So, I mean, I wouldn't put that under free speech. If there's a clear danger, that's one thing. But this is not what these guys are talking about.
No. And also, people need to remember that a viewpoint changes over time drastically. Now, I'm not saying at any point in time America is going to say, oh, yeah, no, we're all Muslims and we're all, we're all for saying, down with the state and
Sharia law.
Go Allah Akbar. Yeah, Sharia law. But to your point about free speech, there's a lot of times that people's viewpoints change, and one day you might be the one that's arguing, and you might be in the vast minority arguing for what you think is right and everyone else thinks wrong. And fast forward 25 years, that's now flipped on its head. But you could have been shut down. You could have been put in prison for your viewpoints. So remember that. Keep it in mind. Rand, I give you a Paulus.
Remember that, fascist. I'm going to double that one up. Double Paulus.
Pow, pow!
All right. So, I mean, it's the Thanksgiving season. We're being really nice to Rand. Is there anything to criticize out here?
Well,
let's look at the next story, because that ties into all this terrorism.
Yeah, this is it's all summed up. Like keeping in the theme of the first half of this. So, yeah, the next thing is Rand wrote an op-ed in Time, which he loves. He in Time, baby.
I mean, if you can get published in Time, you probably should. Because that's still a widely read
You might
magazine,
as well. And it's considered a fairly, it's basically unbiased for the most part. I mean as unbiased as you can be.
As unbiased as completely corporate sellout media can be. Yes.
Right, exactly. So, but he wrote basically the summation of this op-ed was saying, we need to defund the people that are supporting ISIS. And he was not pulling any punches. He said, he called out, the fact that we're spending billions supporting governments and trading with these governments and buying their oil. And, Saudi Arabia is one of them, that massive supporter of terrorist organizations. So
who else is? So is our government.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what he's implying
in a roundabout way. Yeah, because we're giving them subsidies, we're giving them aid here and there, we're trading with them, we're providing them arms half the time, which then they're turning around and providing to terrorist organizations. So in the first half of this editorial, he really calls them out for that. To which I say, good job, and. Like I said, he's not playing politics here. He's just laying it out, saying this is what it is. We need to stop kowtowing and playing friends with these people when on one hand they're shaking our hand and the other hand they're stabbing us in the back.
And as far as I know, Rand Paul, maybe to some extent Donald Trump, are the only people even vaguely sort of like pointing out our allies and some of the truths that are going on in the Middle East and some of the realities of the situation. And I mean, Rand may be putting it a lot better, and Trump is kind of all over the place, but nobody else is even coming close to tackling this issue. They're just doing it in this black and white, evil over there, bomb them, kill them way. And when we look at things that way, we're not going to really ever be able to identify actual bad guys, actual criminals, actual terrible people that are planning real attacks against real innocent people. I don't consider two terrorist organizations in Syria fighting it out something that we should pick a side in, you know?
Yeah. And that actually good segue.
You gave me a Paulus for that?
I give you a Paulus.
So what do we give Rand? Another Paulus here?
Let's segment this. For the first half of his editorial, I give him a Paulus.
Paulus. All right. So far, so good. So I'll join you there.
Now, this isn't a one sentence earlier. This is this is a 4 paragraphs earlier.
Rand Paul 1 to 4 paragraphs earlier.
So later on, Rand, after saying, it's pointing out these great things, how much money he spent, and he even mentions arming different factions like the Syrian rebels who have turned into ISIS. He then goes and mentions the fact that, hey, we should be throwing our support behind the Kurds.
Did he say it like Harry Carey? Because that's what it... Hey, do you think we should throw our support behind the Kurds?
The Kurds are made of teeth and nails. They call me kitten. Whatever. Anyway. So, yeah, he's saying, we need to help the Kurds, help them fight their war. Because they're in northern... People who don't know the Kurds, they're in northern Iraq.
Getting to know the Kurds.
Getting to know Kurds. Getting to know all.
We should have a special
podcast.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'll bring in a sexy Kurd. There has to be someone.
Find me a sexy Kurd.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take any Kurd, but Brian is specifically requesting a sexy one. So if anyone out there knows a sexy Kurd that would like to come on the show,
really, I'm just trying.
I'm not even really joking. If anyone has an expert on the Kurds, I will do an episode about that.
I'm angling for sponsorship from sexykurds.com.
Sexiness not necessary.
Which I kind of want to Google my phone and see if it exists.
All right, well,
I'll do that after the show. If it exists, I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, that sounds good.
And if it doesn't exist, somebody please create.
If it doesn't exist, you guys got about 6 hours to make this website up for us.
Make it happen.
Only you can't hear the podcast yet. Oh boy, we're letting them behind the curtain again.
Call me directly at 1-800 I love Kurds.
So how did this take a bad turn with his? He really loves the Kurds.
He loves the Kurds. He's got
big Kurd fan.
He's got a big Kurd on, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Rand wants to essentially, he called for arming them earlier, a few months ago, and now he's saying again, laying down support for the Kurds, which to me makes no damn sense. The Kurds are in Iraq. Now they're fighting against the people that we hate, but on the same note, they also are a minority faction that's primarily religious, that's fighting back against the larger government, and they are not exactly led by a man who's a great guy. It's a guy who's known for jailing journalists, a guy who's known for harsh tactics. So he's his own little Saddam Hussein in there anyway, and Rand wants to arm these guys. Now, because
strategically it makes sense in theory, which just like every other intervention could be determined to have made sense in theory. I mean, we helped the Afghanis, certain Afghani factions,
against the Russians,
propel the Russians, and that made sense because they were against them. But
the banana field called Al-Qaeda.
We've been through what happened there many times.
Did it again with Syria, and Rand calls these out. So I don't understand how blind you have to be, or how segmented is your thinking, where you say, okay, hey guys, we got to stop supplying these organizations that are full of rebels and these factions because it's not working, and then turn around and say, well, except that one. I
feel like we need an expose here. Like, is Rand taking massive money from some Kurd lobby? Like, why is he so obsessed with? He's against like every intervention of arming anyone except Kurds.
Yeah, maybe he's got Kurd cash.
Is he confused? Is he thinking of somebody else? I mean, I just don't get it. And look, and this is the ridiculous thing about the one ridiculous thing. There's a million ridiculous things about what's going on in Syria, but if you just look at the way they're selling this to us right now, which is we have to go fight ISIS. It used to be we have to go fight Assad because he was supposedly killing civilians or whatever, as if we're not killing civilians every single bomb we drop, but that's another story. Or it's the same story, actually. But, it was about getting Assad. Then everyone's like, no, we don't want to go to war for that. We don't really care about that guy. And now we have the Paris attacks, we have beheadings, and now it's all about getting ISIS. Well, there's one country in there that's literally is going after ISIS, Russia. But the reason we don't want to work with Russia is because we're not there to fight ISIS per se. We're there to overthrow Assad. They've made it clear in every single speech. Obama keeps mentioning, but Assad must go. So they have this different mission, this other mission, and Russia supports Assad. So we should be on the same side if the true intent is to eliminate ISIS, this threat that Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio tell us is the biggest threat on the planet that has ever existed, and yet we can't go all the way and actually work with what should be an ally in Russia because we're obsessed with overthrowing Assad, and the implications of that go so far down the conspiracy hole, I don't even know where to go with it, but let's just say I think it has a lot to do with the control of natural resources in that region.
That's what it has to be, because I'm saying, I was just thinking the same thing. Why the hell do they care so much about Assad? Who cares? This guy in Syria, I mean, why do you give that much of a damn that you have to go over there and go to war and overcome
This is
these
actually a
rebels?
great
Give me a
time.
break.
This is a great time to give a shout out to my next guest who will be on the show on Monday, Jen Briney, and her podcast, Congressional Dish. I'm bringing this up right now because she just did an episode, I believe it was episode 108, where she breaks down this entire situation in Syria, the things the politicians are saying. This woman is amazing. She actually goes and reads the bills. She watches congressional hearings. She pulls out sound bites, pulls out bits, and tries to show everybody what's actually happening without any sort of political agenda like we have here. So highly recommend Congressional Dish Podcast, and you'll find out more about that this coming Monday on the show with Jen Briney. So.
Do you remember I used to do that bill watch column where I used to go through? I used to pour through the bills.
What happened to that?
I spent hours doing it. Oh my god, it was a nightmare. I envy you, or actually I pity her, because that is a nightmare going through those damn things.
Well, she does it every week, and she does a great job doing it. So,
well, she must
look out for that.
I spent hours, and I got like 3 people read it.
Anyway, I can only take it that from your tone here about the Kurds that you're going to give Rand's suggestion to arm them a
minus,
and I will also give that a minus because screw the Kurds.
I screw the Kurd.
I don't like Kurds any more than I like ISIS. I mean, is the difference that the Kurds just don't put videos out chopping people's heads off? It doesn't sound like they're any better of a group.
No.
Maybe on the scale, you would put ISIS higher than like Kurds a little further down, but they're all bad guys. And I don't want to say that about the Kurds in general, like the race or the ethnicity. I mean, I'm sure there are very nice Kurdish people out there. But you know what I'm saying. We're talking about the specific armed group that is fighting in the region.
Precisely. And who knows what tactics they turn to. You know, ISIS is, well, now they have a lot of money, but, you know, the Kurds are fairly well off. They got their own kind of like mini state there. So they were, you know, who knows what they would do if they were
Maybe we should visit
positions.
Kurdistan and that area. And
Live podcast?
Yeah, why not? We need someone to fund this, though.
It'd be like Vice. It'd be a Vice segment.
So send us money, or just shop through our Amazon link, lionsofliberty.com/Amazon.
Yeah,
anywho,
do that.
Let's move on to some of the post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you know, there's, again, not a ton here. I'll give up one quick one. We don't even have to really...
The good thing is we have a knack for taking not a ton and turning it into 20 minutes of drivel. So
that's true.
Let's do it.
Well, people have been deep diving through
the big story here, or what should be a bigger story than it is, I think it's more of an internet libertarian big story than a real life big story. But tell us about this thing with the Clinton staffer and the CNN and the collusion. What the hell's going on here?
This should be a pretty goddamn big story.
It should be freaking headlines across, like, I mean...
It drives me insane that it's not. I'll tell you, for those who don't know...
If this was the right-wing media, you know, quote-unquote, colluding against Hillary Clinton, that would be a totally different story.
Yeah, exactly. If some Trump staffer... Well, not Trump, they hate him. Let's say Jeb Bush staffer had been working with Sean Hannity, it would be a big deal. So, well, here's what actually happened. So it was revealed from like some leaked emails that a Clinton staffer had colluded with a CNN reporter named Elise Labat. And essentially...
Elise Labat. Elise Labat. All right, anyway. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I mean, I'm too close to the holiday season and too close to Mexico. So both those things combined.
Right. So Elise, basically what happened here, she colluded with the CNN staffer, or she colluded with a Clinton staffer during the Benghazi hearings, because Rand had gone in and he was really kind of giving her the hard questions during one of these hearings. So Elise Labat tweeted out, Senator Paul, the most critical on committee on Clinton, but a little late to the Benghazi game. Not sure he was at many of the 30 previous briefings.
It's a really weak criticism, by the way.
But it's still...
Not sure. A little late. Like, it's not very definitive.
Well, she's just trying to undermine him. You know, either way, though, it's a CNN journalist undermining
journalist.
Paid journalist for a network that's supposed to be unbiased, reporting the news, who...
And this is clearly commentary, not news.
Exactly. And there's email trail saying, you know, with her email, say, hey, how, you know, was he definitely not there? Okay, great, I'll post it. You know, back and forth. So clearly she's working with this Clinton staffer to post something specifically to undermine Paul and smear.
And the terms not sure and many do not belong in journalism. They're not accurate terms. They don't describe anything. They just say... It's just her saying, look, I'm CNN and Rand's a little bit, overboard here. He's a hypocrite. He's not following this.
Precisely.
Yada, yada, yada.
So, of course, you know, this should have been a massive story. Anytime a politician and a network are are colluding together to go after another political
that
candidate.
should be a kind of big deal,
story,
shouldn't it?
But it was more or less, it's kind of swept under the rug. It was reported in different circles, but mostly swept under the rug. CNN still has not fired this journalist. And they have not, she's on suspension, but not even for that, because she said something else stupid.
So the other thing, do you know?
Oh God, I can't remember. Some
other
tweet. She called the Pope a.
Oh my God, she said that?
Can you believe it?
Wow. Anyway,
moving on. So they've done nothing. Rand Paul's came out and said this is pathetic. This is unbelievable. It can't, as anybody would. And I see a silver lining to this, though. Can you guess what it is?
No.
All right, well, I'll tell you.
I could, but I'm not going to bother.
I already know your opinion. Here's what I think might happen, and I hope is going to happen. Now, CNN's hosting the next GOP debate, which I believe is on December 15th. And Rand's kind of on the cusp whether they'll get in or not. I think he will definitely get in because they need him in there. But leading up to this, because of this collusion that's been proved to be going on, I think CNN is going to give him more coverage. I think it's going to give him more positive coverage to kind of balance out public perception that they are leftist and that they're going out of their way to smear GOP candidates.
Isn't CNN the one generally kind of seen as like the unbiased one? In theory,
the most out of all of them.
Fox is the right-wing one, MSNBC is the left-wing one, and then CNN's the quote-unquote unbiased. But in this world, unbiased means like always supporting the government line. So,
exactly.
In the world we live in here.
With that in mind, I think they're going to try to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're seeing more Paul opportunities on CNN, more positive stories, and I wouldn't be surprised if during the debate they tell their monitors, hey, give Rand some extra questions, be a little nicer to him. You don't have to go easy on him, but we don't want to look like we're singling him out because then people start to say, is the whole network against Rand Paul, which is something that would be a PR disaster for them.
Well, you wouldn't be surprised if that stuff happened, and I would be surprised if that stuff happened. I think you're right. That's what should happen in theory. Well, I mean, he shouldn't get special.
In theory, they shouldn't give him any special treatment. Right, but I'm saying, knowing how these media organizations operate and knowing PR, since I do PR for a living, I would not be shocked in any way if that's what they say. Subtly, but I think I'm going to look and see. I think there's tracking service. I'm going to see what the uptick mentions are for ranks. I'm going to bet. I'm going to cover it in next week's column that they're in there.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We eagerly await that.
Let's put a 5 spot on it.
What are we betting? That just they mention him more in a week?
Yeah. So anyway, I gave him a Paul-less for his reaction, and even though the whole debacle, because the whole thing didn't really damage him, it just made CNN look bad and made Clinton look bad. So I gave him a Paul-less.
I'm going to give it a very weak Paul-less. Because I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference in anything. But
skim milky.
It's not a minus, and I'm not. Yeah,
Paul-less.
I mean, it's not a minus. But because what did he do wrong? All right, so
let's wrap this up.
Okay,
I got one more
producer.
item.
You tell me what. It better be good. One more. Drum roll, please. What's the last item?
Officially, Rand is on the ballots in Kentucky for both president.
Is he on them or did he file?
Senate. He filed. It's as good as he will on there. Though. He's on there.
Just needs a stamp of approval from who does it? Is it that lady that
I think
signed the marriage
Kim
contract?
Davis?
Kim Davis have to sign off on that?
Hey, he supported her, which got him a minus, so she
true.
should sign off on it.
That's true.
But yeah, Rand, he officially has filed for the Senate and the presidency in Kentucky, so he is going to be on the ballots after a lot of hoopla. It's going to cost him like $15,000 because they have to do some sort of change that he said he'd pay for, so taxpayers don't have to. And speaking of, he also gave $600,000 back from his congressional budget just this last week. But so he's filed it. Now, some pundits are saying, oh, well, you know what? This is a clear sign that he's giving up his presidential hopes. But I say, give me a goddamn break. Look, if you're running for president, seeing how fickle it is, because Ben Carson was at like 46%, in the polls. Now he's at 16 because it's revealed that he's, half a doofus. So if that
only half, that's very kind of you.
I'm being nice.
But, at least half of him is a neurosurgeon, so
exactly. But you see, people climb up, people drop out. There's still like a year until we're actually elected or electing anybody or voting on anybody.
Only 2 months until the first vote, but we shall see.
There's so many though. It still just changes. So why would you not if you're Rand Paul?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, this will be used by some people as a criticism against him. But I mean, it's always been clear that he's running for Senate and running for president. Criticize that, but this is not new information.
And I don't think his Senate seat's in danger either. Those people elected him for a reason. It's not like he's changed his viewpoints. He's not, and he still missed only 2% of his votes, even running for president. He still is there for all the votes. He's still putting bills through. It's not like he's dropped the ball like Rubio
generally
has.
In Kentucky, the Republican kind of just walks in to that seat.
Exactly. Well,
And,
I know you were talking to me about...
There's also, there was a story this week that Democrats are having a hard time finding a Senate candidate to even run against Rand Paul because I guess they got wiped out in their state elections and they can't really find anyone they consider a top-tier candidate to run against him.
Scared is what they're doing.
Because, I mean, the fact is they're going to see it as a waste of time, and the odds of anyone usurping Paul, who, even though they've had some spats, I imagine will still have the endorsement and support of Mitch McConnell and the party machine in Kentucky.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because Rand supported McConnell, and that's why, because he didn't want to be turned on. So say what you will about that, but that's the state of affairs, and I don't see anything really affecting his Senate seat. I would be shocked if he faced any challenge, regardless of what happens with the presidential race.
Precisely. So he's safe there. It's his for the taking.
I mean, if he's at 1% and he's still in the race in April, and he's hasn't picked up a single delegate, and he's spending no time in Kentucky, and maybe it could become an issue, but I don't. And if he's doing well in the presidential campaign, then I don't think it'll hurt his Senate campaign. People aren't going to be afraid to vote for both. If they like him as president, they're not going to be like, but I will vote against you as senator because I think you shouldn't do both. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's an idiotic standpoint. I just don't understand the pundits going on and on about it anyway.
All right. Well, then let's stop going on about it.
I agree.
Let's stop.
This has gone on long enough.
Let's not criticize the pundits for it if we're going to do it. So that sums up our little Rand Pauluses and Minuses venture here. We will do it once again in 2 weeks, and we'll see after that. We got some announcements coming soon. We've been teasing them for a while. We're getting very close to officially announcing them, but you can expect more podcasts coming your way soon from us. Let's just leave it as vaguely clear as that. And until next time, until this coming Monday, like I mentioned, I'm speaking with Jen Briney of Congressional Dish. If you don't want to wait till then, go check out her podcast now. Go check out episode 108 about Syria. Check them all out because she does a great show. Until then, folks, what am I going to ask them to do, Brian? What do you think? Perhaps I will
maybe something like
suggest that you guys just live long
and live free. I don't really have anything to say.
I have nothing witty to add.
HotKurds.com. Get it going.
Bye.
Head of editing and mastering is John Dauber.
Contact Johnny53 at gmail.com.